Hello, I'm Pamela Davis Brown. Welcome to episode 241 of the Well Done Life podcast. Hello, and welcome back to episode 241 of the Well Done Life podcast. I'm your host, Pamela Davis Brown. If you are new here, hey, how are you? Welcome. I hope that you will stay for a very long time and bring lots of friends. And if you've been here before, you guys know the deal. I love you deep. Thank you so much for continuing to rock with me. Your support has gotten me through some wonderful and some hard times, but together we've created something that I couldn't imagine you not being a part of. So of course, I want you to stay for a very long time, bring lots of friends, and keep bringing more friends. Let's do this together. So before we get started, I know for a lot of you who have heard me record before, listened to the episodes, all those things, you probably could recite this part with me. But hey, and I know I might sound like a broken record, but I really think that it's important before we dive into topics, before we talk to people, that we really set the foundation about what we do here. And so the Well Done Life is a brand that I created for women because I simply believe in the power of women. I believe in the power of us sharing our stories, the good, the bad, the ugly, so that we can inspire each other, so that we can encourage each other to be the best versions of ourselves, because I think we need more spaces. We are the foundations of society. And I just think it's important as women that we kind of break through some of the silos and we find a way to connect through storytelling. And so for me, being in the space, it's really about me sharing my story, the good and the bad, all 52 years of it so far. And it's been quite a journey. And hopefully I will inspire you to realize that some of the things that you're going through are only temporary, as well as to maybe encourage you to realize the power of telling your story to another woman, because that's the way that we grow. We are what we have been waiting for. We are what is going to save us. And so I hope in this space that you will feel loved, that you will feel supported and encouraged and inspired to share your journey, because it's beautiful. And you never know who's watching and who is being inspired by you. And so I want you to feel that love and be welcomed here. And along the way, you're also going to get a chance to, because I don't want to forget that, be introduced to amazing women as well who are doing great things in the space, because there's no gatekeeping here. I like to make sure I bring that in. We don't gatekeep. This is a place where you can truly get the information that you seek. So welcome. And then that leads me into my other foundation. My other foundation is pretty simple. I have a strong belief in love. I believe in the power of love. I think everything we will do in this space is rooted in love. And so I like to make sure that we start our episodes off always with that. And with that, I like to make sure that I send prayers to you, because I truly believe in the power of prayer. And so for me, this season of my life has kind of led me to stand on a few foundational prayers. And so my first foundational prayer is peace. I am truly praying for you to have peace in your spirit, in your body, in your mind, in your soul. We're in a very disruptive time and I think it is very important to prioritize taking moments where you breathe. Moments where you just stand still and give yourself an opportunity to regulate. A lot of times we're just go, go, go. And sometimes you need to say no. You need to stand still. You need to regulate your mind, your body, and your soul, and your heart, so that you're making the best possible decisions, because it is very easy to get caught up in the cycle of life and to make decisions. And a lot of times we make those decisions off of emotions, off of energy. And sometimes they can cause us extra steps to be taken. They can cause us to miss opportunities. They can slow you down. I mean, there's just so many things. Give yourself an opportunity to breathe. You deserve it. The world will continue. Give yourself a time to regulate. Find peace no matter what it looks like for you. It could be sitting in your car for 5 minutes. If that brings you peace, then so be it. But give yourself that space for peace and regulation. And along that line with peace, I always standing also right now on clarity. I think it's really important to be able to see what's in front of you. Because again, all the emotions, all the energies that we're moving through, that we're navigating, can cause us to see things one way, when in actuality, reality, it's a whole different type of scenario going on. And so when you have an opportunity to stand still, to be at peace, to be at rest, it gives your body, it gives your mind an opportunity to reset so that you can see things clearly. And I truly believe that in times such as this, it's very important for you to have clarity about what you are encountering, as well as what you want to do, how you want to move. This is not a time of the in-between. This is a time of being clear and direct and intentional with yourself. So give yourself that opportunity to find peace so that you can have the clarity and be intentional with yourself. And then my third prayer that I'm standing on right now is love. I believe in, like I said, in the power of love. I want you to have love from the top of your head to the bottom of your feet. And I'm talking good reciprocal love. And with that love, it's not just about being in a relationship, but it is also about community. It is about fellowship and family, making sure that you are pouring into people the way that they are pouring into you, making sure that your circle, your clique is tight. Because again, in seasons like this, especially with the level of life that most of us are trying to live, we need to have a strong community. Because like I mentioned at the top of the episode, there is no one coming to save you. You are exactly what you are looking for. And so you want to make sure that your clique, your crew, your people, your community is tight. And you have to pour into them just like they're pouring into you. You don't have time for wishy-washiness. You don't have time for people that you are just having surface level situations and relationships with in your community. You need a tight community, people who can hold you down in the trenches, people who can talk to you and pour into you in a constructive, in a loving way. You need a solid team. And so you want to make sure that you are allowing the peace that you are seeking, the clarity that you are seeking, to give you the discernment and the ability to heal the parts of yourself that may be blocking you from being able to experience the love that you deserve. But then at the same time, being able to be the love that somebody else needs. Because again, like I mentioned, you need somebody. You are not going to be able to do this alone. And so you have to pour out just as much as you get poured into. And so give yourself that space, that energy, that healing to be able to do that so that you can have the community that you need. And then rounding out my prayers, I'm standing on abundance. I'm going to stand on abundance because I'm always going to want you to be financially abundant, of course, but I want you to be spiritually abundant. I want you to be able to have memories and moments that just make your heart sing, that help contribute to that love that you feel from the top of your head to the bottom of your feet, because all of that is true wealth. We focus so much on the monetary because, we can't help it. You got to hustle out here today. There's just so many needs and things that have to be accomplished. But true wealth is inside. True wealth is the love that you cultivate around you. You want to have that. That is abundance on a level like no other. And like I mentioned before, of course, I'm always going to want you financially abundant because I want you to be a blessing to other people and yourself. But I also want you to be abundant spiritually. Don't get so caught up in the season and in the situation of life that you forget that the truest form of wealth comes from within. And it comes from who you are surrounded by. Because that love that you get, those memories that you make, they're priceless. And they will carry you through the hard times. They will motivate you to work harder. They will sustain you and support you through many, many seasons. Allow yourself to be truly wealthy on all levels. So those are my prayers for you this week. I'm very excited to be sitting down and recording on Friday, December the 5th at 8:57 p.m. But I'm not really recording. I'm just recording the front end of this episode. I actually recorded earlier today, and I'm so very excited to have this wonderful guest here. And I don't want to belabor the point because it's a good interview. We had a great conversation. I want to thank everyone for the support report on the episode before the holiday, showing up. It is very important. Like we just got through talking about community and being reciprocal and having those relationships and showing up. And so I hope that you are challenging yourself to show up even in the moments where it feels like you don't know if you can press through, but you're being pressed to go. There is a blessing in that for you. So don't block your blessings. But like I said, this week we're here and I have a wonderful conversation for you with an amazing guest that I had a chance to have a second conversation with today. And I'm so excited. We are actually talking to Tara Pringle Jefferson, founder of the Self-Care Suite, which is a space that she has created dedicated to addressing the unique challenges that Black women face in prioritizing their healing and restoration. But Tara has done something else. She has now written a book, Bloom How You Must, a Black woman's guide to self-care and generational healing, which came out on December of the 2nd. And so I'm really excited about sharing my conversation with you, with Tara, because the Bloom How You Must is a guide. It is a practical and heartfelt guide that kind of redefines self-care as a birthright rather than a luxury. And she spoke with over 100 Black women starting from young all the way up into their seniors to talk about their experience of reclaiming rest and healing and how we can utilize that to help reclaim our rest and healing. Because Tara is a very dynamic writer, speaker, and community builder. And so I am very excited about sharing her with you. This is our second conversation, so it feels like home. And so I want you to take a moment, sit back, relax, get a cup of water, get a cup of tea, whatever you feel like you need. And I will have Tara here with you in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So we have a lot to talk about. It has been a while, Tara, since you've been here. How are you feeling today?
I'm happy to be here.
I'm so happy to have you, honey.
Yeah.
So happy to have you back. So we have a lot to talk about. It's funny because, like I said, you are so many things, and now you have added this wonderful new moniker of author. And you are in this wonderful, good space. You just launched. The book is out. What's grounding you today in this moment?
I really believe my community is grounding me so much. Because I feel like I'm living inside of an answered prayer. And even though I've called this into my life and I've wanted it, I've desired it for a long time, the reality of things can be very emotional and they can be very overwhelming. And I've been using that word a lot this week, but it's overwhelm in like the best possible way, just not realizing how large your work can resonate. And so during this launch period of the book, I'm really leaning on my community pretty heavy. And they have been allowing me to feel seen and to feel heard and to feel held in a way that I truly needed during this time. And so I'm feeling really grateful for my community members for always being in my corner, always.
And that is such a beautiful feeling. And I'm so glad that it's grounding you, especially as we kind of start to have this conversation, because kind of like teeing it up a little bit, and you have started out in a whole different space. Like I said, you were a founder of the Self-Care Suite. And for those of us that are probably just meeting you maybe for the first time, can you tell us what was the heartbeat behind the Self-Care Suite and the way that you chose to show up for Black women that has led you to where you are right now with Bloom How You Must?
Often when people ask me about the Self-Care Suite and why I started it, I tell this long story about my own personal struggle with depression after the birth of my 2 children, and how community was the thing that kind of lifted me and put me on this path to wellness and healing. And I wanted to bring other Black women along that journey with me. But I feel like now, during the writing of Bloom How You Must, I recognize that the seeds of the Self-Care Suite actually go back to my mother and my grandmother. And I wanted to create a space for myself and for other Black women I knew where we could be seen, where we could be heard, where we could be valued and appreciated and supported. I feel like the Self-Care Suite is really a group of like 1,200 cheerleaders just ready to have your back at any moment.
Mhm.
And I recognized that for a lot of women in my family, they didn't have that. They didn't have that strong community of best friends and sister girls that they could hang out with when life got really tough. And I recognize now that the Self-Care Suite was really a place where women of all ages could come, women like my mother, women like my grandmother could come and be able to share news about a new job interview and please put out some good juju in the air for me, or it's sharing pictures of their new baby and wanting everybody to fawn over them and celebrating their joy. It really is a space where we can do the day-to-day life while also having conversations about these larger issues that we're dealing with, like perimenopause, for example, is huge right now in our community and everybody's talking about it. And it's just a great place for us to share what our lives truly look like. And I'm just delighted that at 2025 is the 10 years mark since I started it. And so I'm grateful that it's still here, that it's still active, that they kept it going in my kind of was largely absent as I was, working on the book, and they kept it going and everything is just as strong as it was before I wrote it. And I'm really thankful for that.
Well, the Self-Care Suite is, like I said, the beginning of how I got introduced to you and to see how you have evolved and kept it going, because you've been that heartbeat. You've always had that space where you have cultivated and prioritized self-care in so many beautiful ways. I remember from our first interview how you were talking about how your kids don't hang out in your room. Your room. Like they try to hang out in the room, but you're like, okay, you can hang for a minute, but this is mama's space. You need to raise up. And you set those boundaries that a lot of us as women have struggled with. And so I think it's beautiful to see this evolution to where you are now with Bloom How You Must. And so knowing the journey that you've been on, what in particular called you in your life to write this book at this moment in time? Why now?
Yeah. If I'm honest, I feel every other way that I was trying to reach out to Black women and grow the suite and expand my message, it wasn't working. So it almost feels like it was a deliberate nudge in this direction. I truly do believe. Before I started writing Bloom How You Must, I was trying to expand the Self-Care Suite. And this was maybe 2020 is when I started working on the book. It wasn't going so well, so I paused it. And I started focusing on other things. I started focusing on growing the suite and getting back in the swing of things after the height of the pandemic. And every grant that I applied for got rejected. Every program I thought I could do got rejected. Every fellowship that I looked at got rejected. And it was almost like it was like the universe, God, whomever was saying, actually, no, it's time for the book. You're trying to do all these other things, but it's time for the book. And I decided to listen and to be obedient and to sit down and get an agent. And I did all of these things. And when I tell you that I do feel like it was meant to be at this particular time, I decided, I'll tell you how quickly everything fell into place. January 31st, 2023, I reached out to my now agent. I signed with her early February. By March, we were pitching. By May, I had a book deal. So it really did not take a long time for this book to begin to take form, to take shape, for people to see the value and the beauty in it. And I feel like it was beyond me. This is a book that came to me and came through me. And I think we needed a tool for this moment where we, as a whole, Black women are under attack in a lot of different ways. And we need to be reminded of the ways that we can center softness, that we can center ease, that we can center ourselves, because this world seems to be really fond of getting us to forget about those things and to just stay rooted in struggle and stress and heartache.
Oh, absolutely. And because I've spoken about it, I feel like in times like this, to love is revolutionary.
Mm-hmm.
Take care of yourself is a revolutionary
Mm-hmm.
act right now,
Yes.
because there's so much coming against you. And so to see how God just truly aligned everything for you in regards to this, I truly understand what you're meaning. It's like, because that doesn't happen. I mean, let's just be honest. It doesn't typically happen where it just kind of falls into place. And for you to be able to put this out. So, because when I was reading through it, I feel like this is definitely a guide.
Mm-hmm.
A guide. It could be a manifesto. It could be an invitation for us to really think about how we can take care of ourselves. And you spoke with spoke with more than 100 Black women. So I definitely have to ask you, when you were putting this together, and when you trace the seeds of wellness in your own life, what did you discover about yourself or the woman who shaped you by putting this story together?
Yeah. In the process of writing Bloom How You Must, it was the first time that I had a really in-depth conversation with my grandmother about her
Mhm.
life.
Mhm.
And I knew the highlights, right? I
Right.
knew all of the things that you can kind of see in a family photo album. I could see, oh,
Mhm.
she got married to my grandpa here. They had the babies. The kids are this old, my aunts and uncles. I knew the highlights of her life, but it wasn't until we sat down together and she shared with me some of her darker moments, some of her harder moments. And I heard the emotion behind it. My grandmother is 86 years old,
Absolutely.
and she's telling me about things that happened when she was 16 and 17. And in that moment, I didn't see my grandmother. I didn't hear my grandmother. I heard a woman, and I heard Louise. I didn't just hear grandma. I heard Louise. And in interviewing her and interviewing my mother, interviewing my aunt, I was struck by some of the similarities between our lives, and how we have navigated them very similarly. Like, I think about my grandmother having her first child at 17, and she told me about how she was nervous to tell her parents at the time, and the feelings that that conjured for her. And I remember having my first child at 20 and having those same fears and those same thoughts of rejection and trying to figure out what the path forward is. And so that really put a lot of conversations and things that happened in the past into perspective for me. And my goal with the book is that by hearing some of these stories, by reading some of these journal prompts, by sitting with the text, that it allows you to go deeper into your own personal history and see what those seeds are there and see how it's shaping what you're going through today and how you treat yourself, how you give yourself grace or don't give yourself grace or self-compassion. Because a lot of these things are not necessarily just ingrained in us, but we've observed it. We've observed it, and that colors how we treat ourselves today.
Oh, absolutely.
Mhm.
I'm a strong proponent that a lot of the things that we are living in this life have been lived before.
Mhm.
And I I think the key thing that you said is that you sat and actually had a conversation with your grandmother and got to see her outside of the role moniker of grandmother, but as a
Mhm.
woman who grew up in an entirely different time than you were growing up. And to see the similarities in those scenarios,
Yeah.
to me, I feel like it's an opportunity and a reminder to us to have conversations with the elders,
Mhm.
to be open, to be able to listen, and the same vice versa, because I do feel like from all the collection of stories that as women have evolved through their own journeys, our parents, our grandparents are learning that they don't have to live life the way they had to live it 40, 50 years ago. They can see the benefits of what we're doing. We can see the benefits of what they're doing. So I totally get that. Do you feel like there was anything that you saw within your own lineage from having those conversations that you were like, okay, I'm going to hang on to this pattern of how I do things, or I'm going to let this one kind of go in the back because I don't want to keep repeating your same cycle?
Yes, yes. The main thing that comes to mind for me me is definitely that all of the women in my family, I have this joke, like we're just the same person each generation, just slightly more concentrated. Like
Same.
definitely the same person, probably
Yes.
about 4 generations back now. And one of the things that I found and I realized very quickly as I was writing this book and doing all this brain work is that I come from a line of women who are such fierce lovers of the people that are in their orbit. Like we show up for people in a way that is so admirable. I cannot believe how blessed I am to come from these women and recognize their strength and recognize the ways that they love on and they care for other people. And as I was thinking through how I want to move, what my rest looks like, what my healing looks like, how I want to structure my self-care routine and habits, I recognized that I wanted to keep that part of myself alive, everything that I learned from them on how to care for people, because it's in me now. It's something that I don't have to think about. The flip side of that, the flip side of that is that often they were caring for people at the expense of themselves.
Yes.
And they really did not put themselves on that list of people to care for, or did not put themselves high up enough where their wellness, their fatigue mattered, their hunger mattered, their needs didn't matter as much at times because they were content to take care of the people around them, and they found great joy in that. And so one of the things that I was like, okay, I love them. I love them. I do. But for me and my life, I need to make sure that I am always checking in on my capacity, making sure that I'm not over functioning, which is what a lot of us tend to do. We tend to over function because we have been ingrained that way, or we've been taught that way. We've observed that. And so we take it on as adults ourselves. And so I decided I was going to stop over functioning and make sure that everything that I'm giving is in proportion with what I have to give.
And that's a whole word. I hope everybody takes that in, because I've been talking about that as well, especially like you mentioned earlier, how big the perimenopause journey is right now for everybody, because, our generation is going through it. And so everybody wants to talk about it because we're a larger generation now. And making that decision for myself, I was like, I don't want the same journey that my mother went through, and I'm sure her mother went through. And it doesn't mean I don't value their experience. It's just I finally learned from it. And I realized that I can love myself enough to not repeat those same cycles.
Right.
Because let's be honest, we were all raised like, be like your grandmother, be like your mom, do like that. Of course. And you can. But we all have to understand we don't have to give to the point of exhaustion, to the point of you are last on the list. And then by the time we're like in our 60s and 70s, we're broke down because you don't gave everything to everybody else.
Exactly. It's been decades at that point of giving everything that you have to everybody else. Yeah.
And it's funny because I was going to ask you now too, that you have written this book and you have discovered these patterns within yourself and within your own family. If you were younger and you were reading this book for wisdom or truth for yourself, what would you tell yourself to hold on to with both hands and let go quick on certain areas?
You are so good at asking questions. Oh my goodness. You really are. Like, you have a gift. You have a gift, ma'am. I just have to say that. Okay.
Thank you.
You have a gift. I love the way you word your questions. I think younger me I think she would just be immersed. Younger me was always a huge fan, surprise, surprise, of reading people's stories. Younger me was a magazine girly. I majored in magazine journalism at Kent State because I wanted to grow up and I wanted to tell stories, because I believed, even as a teenager, I believed in the power of stories to help you. They help shape your world. They help shape your worldview, and they expose you to things that you may not have known even existed. And it allows you to shift ever so slightly the lessons that you learned in your initial family. It allows you to shift those all of those thoughts that you've held so dearly for so long. And so I think that she would really be a huge fan of all the stories that are in the book, especially the ones from the older women, because she was young. She was always an old soul, always an old soul. So she always enjoyed listening to her grandmother talk, or listening to the older women in the family kind of sit around, and she'd be quiet so she could hear, and they wouldn't try to kick her out and say like, "Okay, girl, now what you know about this?"
That's right. Yep.
Right? What you know about this? And so I think that she would really love all of those stories. And I think probably at her, if I'm thinking about like younger Tara, maybe like late 20s or late teens, early 20s Tara, I think that she would be really drawn to like the professional wellness chapter, as she was embarking on her life's journey of being a writer and thinking about some of the things that I outlined in that chapter. Like, what does success mean to you? And how do you have your own personal definition? Not what social media is telling you, not what your friend group is telling you, but for yourself, what does success look like for you? All other aspects to the side.
Yes. Now that you've, I can imagine, because like you have to think about it. Like when we were young, we were just trying to get it.
Yes.
We were just trying to get it. We were just trying to be on top. We were trying to make our parents proud, not ourselves proud.
No.
But our parents proud. And so I love how you're able to see that for yourself in this book. And now that you've written this beautiful book, this beautiful guide, how has this guide, now that you're done, like you said, you're not done, you've launched it, you put it out into the ether.
Yes.
How has your relationship or your perspective with softness and rest been shifted by this book?
People have asked me like how the book has shifted me and changed me. And I'll tell you, this book tore me up. This book, it tore me up, because I didn't just sit and write a book from my own perspective and my own experience. I really wanted to ground it in some historical truths. I wanted to ground it in the lived experiences of other Black women. I wanted to ground it in research. And so I had to do a lot of external work on each chapter, and thinking about what the working world was like for Black women, like in the 100 years ago, early 1900s. What was that like? They had all these ordinances that they were passing that was prohibiting Black women to be stay-at-home women, to be stay-at-home wives or stay-at-home mothers. Yeah. They had laws against that. And so thinking about the ways in which we historically haven't had agency, and coupling that with the interviews of the women who lived at a time when choices were much fewer, and their initial thoughts of, I want to be, a lot of women told me that their initial goals for their professional lives were much more creative in scope. And they were told they couldn't do that. And so they became secretaries, or they became teachers, or they became something that was considered safe and appropriate for their community. And so I just definitely, I definitely believe that I had changed for the better as a result of writing this book, because how could you not, sitting with all of these women? Again, I interviewed 100 women, ages 19 to 99 years old, and just absorbing their stories, absorbing their strength. It really shifted the way that I treated myself, because I saw myself not so singularly, not just one of many, but many within the one. Right? If that makes sense to you.
Yes.
I saw myself as part of a larger fabric in the history of Black women in this country. And so it made it easier for me to claim rest. It made it easier for me to claim softness, because I could see how much had been sacrificed. I could see how hard it had been. I had all of these stories rattling around in my brain about how rest was denied for so many women, how we have been worked and worked and worked for generations after generation. And it made everything so much clearer to me. And I hope that once people read the book and they sit with the stories and they read what some of these women have endured, what they've overcome, they too will see, this is ours. This is what we are meant to claim in this moment. This is ours. And I could not, like I said, this book tore me up. I don't think it could have changed me any more than it did. I feel on a molecular level, I feel different after having written it.
And that is so beautiful to have something in your life that tears you apart because
Hmm.
it rebuilds you back in such a better way, so
Yes.
much stronger, and you radiate peace.
Mhm.
You do. I wish y'all could see her. She radiates peace and happiness and wellness. And that's a beautiful thing because you're in such a season of busyness.
Mhm.
A lot of times we lose track of that, but to be at rest in the season of busy, that's divine. That means you're
Yes.
doing exactly what you are supposed to do. And so feeling those feels, is that what you're hoping that other Black women who read this book, is that what you want them to come away with as well? That same feeling that you are not one, you are many in one.
Mm, that's exactly the theme of the book, is that we are all here and we together we have all that we need. That is the theme, the thesis of the book. Together we have all that we need. And it's within us, but it's also all around us. And I do hope that as people, as Black women pick up the book and they flip through the pages and they read the stories and they learn more about themselves
Mhm.
throughout the process. That's why I included all of the journaling prompts and I included some of these thought provoking exercises at the end because I really want it to be a book that you experience and it allows you or it invites you rather to go deeper in yourself so that you can see how strong you are and how powerful we are together.
Yeah. And I think that, like I said, this is the perfect time. I mean, we're in the rest, the 92%, as they say.
Hmm.
This
Hmm.
is our period of rest. But there really is there rest, but is there really, really rest? This is to me the season of, rebuilding and understanding and learning who we are and tapping into each other. And I love the guide, the way that your book is set up to connect with that, to really help make people take that time and think about
Hmm.
it because it's easy to lose track of it. For women right now, because again, this is the busy season too. We're doing this interview now in the height of December, so holidays are coming, all the things are happening. For women who might be feeling like a little bit disconnected or overwhelmed, where do you think they should begin? Is there a point at the beginning, or should they start in the middle? Where do you feel people should start if they wanted to start?
Yeah. So many people are overwhelmed right now and feeling like they are on the verge of either burnout or some type of exhaustion, or they're already in it. They're already feeling exhausted and they have been for many, many years. And so the first thing that I always advise people to do is to be able to one, take a pause. So whether that is just, hey, you take a mental health day from work, or you take something off of your calendar on a Saturday when you're already off work and create some time, an hour, 2 hours, maybe three, depending on what you need, and really sit and breathe for a moment. Just start by taking a pause, let your body slow down. As I always tell people, get your shoulders away from your ears, relax your jaw,
Yes.
like release some of that tension in your body, and then during that time where you're sitting by yourself and you're feeling a little bit more easeful, then you can start to either sit with a book like Bloom How You Must that has some of those prompts in it, that
Yes.
allows you to kind of walk you through it step by step. But the first thing you need to do is to think about, how do I create more space in my life? Exhaustion often is a byproduct of giving too much too widely,
Mm.
right? Giving too much too widely. And sometimes we're not able to go as deep in certain areas because we're spread so incredibly thin. And so the first thing that I always recommend is, how can I create some room? How can I make some room? Sometimes it's making room by getting rid of some things. Sometimes it's like, okay, I was serving on this board for a long time and I cannot continue to have weekly meetings and this and running here and running these committees. Maybe I can't do that in this season. Or somebody is, really heavily involved in church. Maybe you can't be on every single committee. Maybe you can only do two. You can't do four. Maybe you can only do two.
Right.
Yeah, you pull back a little bit, figuring out where you can give yourself some room. But on the flip side of that, making some room can also mean making room for things. So making room for new experiences, making room for new feelings of adventure or joy or safety. So maybe it is, taking a class that you've always wanted to do. One of the things on my list, I want to take a water aerobics class so bad. Like
Oh
it
my
looks
God.
so fun. I see those videos on Instagram all the time. It looks so much fun. I can tell I'm getting older, but it looks so much fun. So like making room for things
Yeah.
that you've been seeing and you've been like, oh, I wish I could take part in that. You can make it a point to look at the why and see when do they have classes, how much does it cost. I'm going to sign up before I think too hard about it, and make that effort for yourself to create, either release something or add something. And I think that's where you start when you have that exhaustion, because again, you're spreading yourself too thin with all of these different areas. And if you can really condense them and make sure that some of those things in that pile are things that bring you joy instead of
Yeah.
things that just drain you, then you'll be better off and you'll be able to work your way through any of that exhaustion or fatigue or just that draining feeling that so many of us feel, especially now.
Oh, absolutely. I loved all that because it's funny. I've started this little series, I think, in my head, and I'm going to
Mhm.
do it now because this is the confirmation I needed. Because this morning I was thinking about how leaving in 2025, one of the things that we have to leave behind is stop doing things for people when we don't have the capacity to do them. We keep doing for others out of guilt or obligation versus being honest with where we are from a capacity standpoint and being afraid to
Mhm.
say no. If you have the
Mm,
capacity, yes, say yes. But if you have the capacity, say not at this time.
right.
And not feeling guilty about that no.
No, no. And one of the things that came up in the interviews, one of the all the women that I interviewed, I call them the gardeners.
Yes.
And Pamela Davis is you're one of my gardeners.
Yes.
I love that I was able to have you in that
Me
group
too.
of women. But later on in the book and some of the later chapters, I talked to a woman about. She was maybe in her 70s. One of the gardeners was
Mhm.
a 70-year-old, and she talked about her mother and the example that she set for her. And she recognized that something that her mother was doing, she labeled it self-neglect.
Mm,
And I love when we think about the way we treat ourselves in those terms. It's very stark, right? Self-neglect sounds harsh.
yes.
It sounds very harsh. But if you think about it in those terms, you want to make sure that you are loving yourself. You want to make sure that you are not neglecting your needs. If you were to neglect your kids or neglect your friend or neglect a family member in that same way, saying you'll do something and then not following through,
Mhm.
you would be disappointed in yourself. But
Yes.
often when we neglect our own needs or when we overextend ourselves, that same fear of, oh my God, why would I do that? That it's not there. We're used to operating in a deficit.
Yes.
And I would really love for us to get into the habit of making sure that if we're not going to show up for anybody else, we're going to show up for ourselves. If we're not going to show up for nobody else, we have to show up for ourselves. I think we have it backwards so often, where we show
Yes.
up for everybody else and then our needs, our desires, everything that we want is optional. And it
Mhm.
should be the other way around, where we are looking at ourselves, we're becoming more actualized women.
Mhm.
And then everything that we have that is, the top right there, the cream of everything, that is what we give to other people and how we show up. And that's what we judge our capacity off of.
Agreed.
Mhm.
Agreed. And it is scary because I like I said, I'm in my 50s or
Mhm.
for me, I'm just figuring out more and more as I get older how important it is to show up for myself before I show up for everyone else. Because I've operated in the inverse. I think most mothers operate in the inverse.
Mhm.
Wives, like a lot of us, we all are operating in this. I got to please everybody because as women, that's what we're raised to be. We are raised to be pleasing to other people. And we don't talk about how you have to be pleasing to yourself. And so I love that. And I'm very excited to see that. So I have just a few more questions for you.
Mhm.
When future generations of Black women read Bloom How You Must, what do you hope that they understand about the woman you chose to become?
You see my son walking back
Yes,
here.
hi.
Yes, he's coming to get the puppy who came in the office. What do I hope that they tell me again the question? That's
What?
my
Oh
yes.
no! When
It's
future
okay.
generations of Black women read "Bloom How You Must," what do you hope that they understand about the woman you chose to become by writing this book?
Mm. I hope that they understand that I was and am just like them.
Hmm.
That I am a woman who's out here doing the absolute best that I can every single day, trying to show up for everybody in my orbit, trying to make sure that they're good. Right. I don't want that to get lost in this conversation. I still want to make sure that people in my life are good, that my friends are good. I want to show up and be a strong member of a community where I am giving as much as I'm receiving. Sometimes the ratio might be a little off, but I'm showing up. I'm
Right.
showing up in that way. So I want to make sure that they understand that we talk about that a little bit too. But I hope that they understand that I am simply somebody who is trying to shift the way that we see ourselves.
Hmm.
Black women as a whole do not tend to see ourselves as human. We tend to see ourselves as something like otherworldly, where we don't need rest. We don't need to think about ourselves in the same way that we think about everybody else. That's why we tend to do the inverse of things. We tend to be very independent. We are able to take care of everybody else, and we're good. We got it. You don't need any help. It's fine. But I really want them to understand that my goal on this earth is to help Black women reclaim their humanity, like one story, one book, one podcast interview at a time, where we are reminded that we have needs. I used to have a button, and I don't have it here, but I used to have a button that I used to include like orders when I had a physical product. But be a woman with needs, right? Be a woman with needs. That is, we've conditioned women that that's like the worst thing to be. People will sling around that word. Oh, you're being needy, and they call women nags for saying what they want and kind of demanding it. Be a woman with needs, and particularly that message is for Black women. We should be people with needs because we are human beings with needs, and that is my goal. If nobody takes anything else away from what I have to say, it's just be reminded that we are entitled to these things. These aren't optional things when we're talking about rest. We're talking about stillness and softness and all of that. We're not talking about optional things or nice to have things. We're talking about things that we are owed, that we deserve. And it's
Yes.
been too long without them.
Amen. And I love that we're having this conversation because you are such a relatable person. You're a
Mm-hmm.
mom, you're a business owner, you're other, like you are living, I would say, a normal life.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of times we base our wellness at conversations based upon looking at people living in a life of celebrity
Mm-hmm.
versus looking at people who are around us every day. And I don't begrudge celebrity in any way. God bless.
Yeah.
But it is a different narrative than those of us who are getting it out of the mud every day, who are in the trenches, living a more normal life, I would say, a regular life. And it's,
Regular.
yeah, regular. It's easy. When it's regular, it is very easy in a regular, degular life
Yes.
to allow your wellness and your care to go to the back end because you're just trying to get it done. And so I love that you want people to see that, even as someone who has written this beautiful book and is going to do amazing things, that you just want people to see that it's okay. And you don't have to be a celebrity to get it, you know?
No, you don't. You don't. And I tell people all the time, I'm a girl from East Cleveland. And if y'all know anything about East Cleveland, it's definitely a get it out the mud city. So I'm just a girl who wanted to write books for a living and decided that my goal on this planet while I'm here is to
Mhm.
help as many women as possible get free.
Ooh,
That's it, and that is all.
I love it. Help us. Let me get free. I'm trying to get free too. I want us all. I agree. Let's be free.
Yeah.
So I have two more questions for you.
Sure.
First, what affirmation or truth are you holding close that you would love to gift another Black woman today?
Mm, the thing that's on my heart the most these days is let people love you. That I've been sitting with that for about a month now.
Mhm.
Let people love you. And that goes in so many different directions. Let people
Yes.
love you could also mean let people know what you need.
Yes.
Let people know what you need. Again, goes back to being a woman with needs. You got to get comfortable having needs before you can express them. And so
Mhm.
if you start at step one, okay, I have needs. What are my needs? What do I need to feel happy, healthy, and whole? Then verbalizing those needs is the next step. And
Yes.
so letting people love you means letting people show up for you. I'm thinking about my book party last night and my book launch party. It was beautiful. We had about 35 people in attendance,
That's
and
wonderful.
it was gorgeous. And I was afterwards, I'm signing books and I'm taking pictures with people. And I look up in the whole space. We had to be out of there, I think, in maybe like by 9, and it was maybe 8:15 or so at the time. And I look up after I signed the last book, and everybody had broken down the tables, had broken down the chairs. Everything was packed in
Yes.
boxes, ready to be put into the back of the car.
Okay.
Everybody did a sweep. They took the trash out to the dumpster. I did not ask anybody to do any of that. Everybody just took it upon themselves
Mhm.
to help. And it was, again, I've done this work for a long time, and I'm still learning these lessons of let people help you, let people
Yes.
love on you.
Yes.
For a long time, I did not feel worthy of that. I did not feel worthy of people showing up for me in that way.
Mhm.
Now I do. Now I do. I do feel worthy of it. Let people love you.
Yes. And I am
Mhm.
so glad that that all came together for you because that
Yes.
speaks volumes about the energy that you're putting out. And I've been wrestling with that. So thank you because it's tough, you know,
It's tough. It
it's tough.
is. It's tough to get to that point
Yeah.
where you just invite the goodness in and the goodness of other people.
Yes.
And I recognize also that I have been sewing into these relationships and this
Mhm.
network for years. I've been somebody who organizes meal trains after they have a baby. I'm boosting their GoFundMe's. I'm showing up, for a
Mhm.
date or a friend date, and they bring their kids. So I got some crayons in my purse. Like I'm always that type of friend. And so many of us are that type of friend, but we
Yes.
often shy away when it's our turn to receive.
Mhm.
But a life where you're only giving and nobody's pouring into you, that's a sure recipe for exhaustion and burnout and fatigue. So make sure that when they are able and they're offering and they're
Yes.
willing and they're there, let people love on you.
Yes, yes. And it is, I pray that that is one thing that people carry into 2026, that desire to let people love you, let them love you and love them so that they can be the best version of ourselves. We have more good years behind us than we
Mhm.
have in front of us. If we don't start doing it now, when are we going to do it, y'all? So it's time. And I would hope that everyone will take Bloom How You Must as a guide with them along that journey so that you can learn how to let someone love you because you see other people have had to learn that same journey too. So I have one other question, my dear. How can we support you? Where can we find you? Because we must support all of you. You're doing.
Yes. Yeah. And I love that people ask me how can they support because as you know, as a lot of people maybe they don't know, being a Black woman in the publishing industry is kind of like being a Black woman in any other industry, right? Like it is harder for us to get our things. It's harder for
Mhm.
us to have the resources for us to be viewed as successful. It's just a harder hill to climb. And I'm fortunate, my publisher is wonderful. I feel extremely blessed. Like my editing team at my publishing house is all Black women, which is rare. Like
Yes.
I don't know many other authors who can say that, maybe a handful, but I do feel that support internally and getting that support externally is also really helpful so that more books can be written by me about Black women and our journeys and our stories. So those people who would love to support, go ahead and pick up a copy of Bloom How You Must. Read it, review it on Goodreads and all of the different platforms, because reviews are very helpful, particularly in this first couple months of publication. Everything is word of mouth based. Everything is truly just a labor of love to get it out to the public. One thing that I learned very quickly is that publishing industry experts don't often know which book is going to hit, which book is going to be really successful. So it really does depend on the community to keep the book's title and everything that it's about top of mind for folks so they can discover it themselves. And then that word of mouth just snowballs. So purchasing the book, reviewing the book. I'm opening my books for 2026 to talk to different book clubs about the book, because I do believe that a lot of the magic in Bloom How You Must is in those small group conversations where we can have a deeper dive into some of the topics that I put into the book. We can talk about sexuality and sensuality. We can talk about our spiritual growth and development and what that walk looks like as we age. We can talk about our physical well-being, especially again, perimenopause, like that keeps coming up. And I really do want to not just have this be a pretty book that lives on your shelf, but to be a book that lives within you after you're done reading it.
Yes, well, I will definitely make sure that I have all your information in the show notes, and I will be having many conversations, and people will be getting many gifts of Bloom How You Must, because I think it is a beautifully done book, and it's something that, like I said, it's needed in this time that we're in. We really all need to, and we need to pour into the community. We need to have conversations, and I feel inspired to have more conversations. I've been talking with my mom more about her history and her journey as a woman, because I want to learn that. We need to talk to elders. So I thank you for giving us such a beautiful gift. And before I let you go, I have to thank you for our conversation last year. When actually 2 years ago now, I think about it, when I turned 50, and you were the first person I talked to as I was getting ready for that, my golden renaissance. That's what I called 50. And at that point in time, I was determined to bet on me. I was determined to bet on me. And having that conversation with you that day was crazy. I was crazy. My hormones were raging because that was before HRT. And you gave me space to be myself and to be open and to help me cultivate the love that I wanted, the person that I wanted to be. And you have no idea, like I said, that conversation was a trajectory to where I am now. Because if I look back 2 years later, I am not that same person. I think you opened me in that conversation by making me think about some of the things that I was feeling in regards to being overwhelmed by being a caregiver and wanting to live a different life and feeling caged, and how I didn't want to be caged anymore and I wanted to live better. You helped me stay on that trajectory. So I have to thank you because of that. That gave me a new life health-wise. I'm healthy as I've probably ever been. You know, I have a husband now. I definitely didn't have that planned on that. And definitely not with the person I am. I was thinking of someone else back then that I needed to cut off. But now that I have opened myself up, I have the love that I deserve. And so I just wanted to give you your flowers and how thankful I am for that moment. Because that was a pinnacle conversation. It was right before I turned 50. So I just have to thank you, because you set my trajectory for my golden renaissance, and I'm very grateful.
My goodness, my eyes are like watering, and they're all like dry and scratchy because I was crying last night at the book party. So I'm like, oh, don't cry because it's gonna hurt.
No.
But I really do. This is what I mean by women sitting together, talking, asking questions, hearing our stories. It is so transformative. It is so transformative. Any
Yes.
role that I could play in helping you have the life that you have now, where you feel so fulfilled and vibrant, and just, I mean, you've always had a beautiful spirit. You've always had a beautiful spirit. And I can see, I was going back and looking at our interview and listening to it again. I mean, I think it goes back and forth. Like it goes both ways. It goes both ways, truly. Listening to your story about how determined you are to grow and how determined you were to make sure that this next 50 years is
Yes.
about Pam.
Yes.
Okay. This next 50 years, I'm doing me.
Mm-hmm.
And we lived with each other, we learned from each other, we walk together on this journey, and I am grateful to you for this space. I'm grateful for you for showing up and giving us permission to talk about like what it means to live the well done life, and the examples that you show in terms of rest and comfort and self-care. You have shifted me, and you've shifted this book in ways that I can't even really put into words. So the feeling and the respect and the love is so mutual. It is so mutual.
Oh, I'm honored. And like I said, just to be able to have this time with you has meant everything. And I will truly be sharing, supporting, talking about, reading, having conversations about, because I look forward to the next flower that grows in this garden that you're creating. Because yeah, this is not the one and done. This is a seed that's planted. And so I'm very grateful for you taking the time to be with us today. So thank you again.
Thank you. It's really, truly my pleasure.
Yeah, mine too. So guys, that's the episode this week. Again, I want to thank Tara for sitting down and having this beautiful conversation with us. I will have all of Tara's information in the show notes. I will be back next week with a brand new episode, the last episode of 2025 before I go on vacation. And then I will see y'all in 2026, but please be gentle with yourselves. Take care of yourselves and enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And I'll talk to you soon.